Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Bizarro World, a sequel to Bizarro Comics, which we just looked at last episode. This is once again all new hardcover anthology featuring indie cartoonists and some people from other realms of comedy doing characters from the DC universe, doing stories. And it's pretty fun, just like the first one. Once again, it's a very nicely produced hardcover book. Very solid production values here. Start off with this really nice Jaime Hernandez cover. And this is kind of interesting because this is how Jaime Hernandez started. Before Love and Rockets, if you have any of those old comics journals, he would do spot illos of various superheroes for Comics Journal. And they were just, like random characters from Marvel and DC, usually DC. Because even then, he kind of preferred the sillier heroes, like Angel and the Ape or, I don't know, Prez. But he also drew his fair share of just like Wonder Womans and Flashes, too, for Comics Journal. Really nice logo. I didn't mention the first issue, the first collection. Both of the logos are by Ryan Hughes, but this one is really sharp. That's a really interesting, weird logo. I like that a lot. End papers. Contents page. And the first story we have is called Bizarro World. And this is written by Chris Duffy. He's the guy who wrote that long story, two-part story in the first collection. This is way better. This is way funnier, way better written than that first story. I was very happy to see that Duffy upped his game. The art is by Scott Morse, popular cartoonist, very prolific, also an animator. So basically we see this suburban family. For summer break, they're heading out to Bizarro World, which is an amusement park. Oh, Chris Duffy's going by CJ Duffy now. I don't know if that matters. And they get there, and they park in the Batcave. And we see the amusement park. And there's some good sight gags in here. He really crams every panel with a bunch of gags. I like this. It's Wonder Woman's Lasso of Truth. It's this ride where they tie you up in the golden lasso. And these people are all forced to tell the truth as they're whipping around this ride. I still went to bed. I have 3 overdue library books. I miss Suddenly Susan. Pretty dated joke, but made me chuckle. The Forever People Mover. Alfred's Tea and Crumpets. We see Alfred there in the background. So everything's kind of the opposite in Bizarro World, as you'd imagine, just like a Bizarro Planet is. I like this one. They go to Crime Alley, and we see Batman's origin reversed, where he starts off as Batman. He sees his parents with like plungers on their head. I guess that's to represent that they're wounded or hurt. Little Bruce Wayne pops out of the body of Batman, pulls the plungers off, and they all walk home happily. And while they're walking away, Bruce vows to spend the rest of his life avoiding criminals. I like Scott Morse, his art. It's very stylized. Definitely a unique style. Nobody draws like him. It's kind of cool. Kind of a definitely different style. Welcome to the origin trail. They see all this goofy stuff like Solomon Grundy and his All-Gator Jamboree. Canceled Comics Comedy Club, and OMAC is on stage with a ventriloquist dummy. Aquaman's Ocean Kingdom. Aquaman's gorging on all of these fishes. His supposed best friends. Just chomping him down. So the kids are annoyed because the kids read comic books and they're like, these are not the superheroes the way they really are. They're basically bastardizing our heroes. So they go to complain to management. And this like head Bizarro guy there. He exclaims to them, he's like, I was once like you. I loved comic books. But one day I saw a certain panel. Man, I really like the way he draws this Bizarro. It looks really neat. Sorry, back to the story. He says, one day I saw a panel that this one panel, everything was changed utterly. Here, children, is the panel. And then in the next panel, we see the kids happily playing in Bizarro World. And Bizarro #1, or whoever this guy is, shows us the panel, and I don't quite get this at all, but it's kind of funny. He says, look, Superman's got his underpants on the inside. Chafing, riding up, not comfy. And that's it. I don't really get the end, but I do like that he put a lot more funny gags in this strip than that first collection. We get another Chip Kid Tony Millionaire collaboration on Batman. This time Robin's along for the ride. Man, these are so great. I just love seeing Tony Millionaire draw Bruce Wayne and Batman and Robin. I wish this was in black and white like the first one, though, because that was amazing. This still is pretty damn nice looking. One night, Bruce and Dick are sitting around, and the supervillain cuts in on the radio broadcast and says, tonight at midnight, Robin will be mine. The monk has spoken. So Bruce and Dick put on their costumes, and they go out searching the city. Man, that's such a good panel. Look at that. He's such a great artist, Tony Millionaire. So the clock tower strikes midnight. I love this, the way he breaks down these panels. That's some nice stuff. And so right at midnight, all of a sudden, it's like Robin is taken over by the monk. He says, fool, the boy is lost. But then on Batman's utility belt, his radio, on his radio, he hears the voice of Robin saying, help me, Batman. So Robin punches Batman in the stomach and dives off the roof of the building. And he swings away. And then he goes on this rampage through the city, just basically acts like a no-good-nick throughout Gotham. He's kicking this little pug, knocking over waiters' trays, just causing havoc. And Batman's chasing after him. And he chases him all the way to this cathedral. Man, that's a panel. Look at that. That's fucking great. Robin runs to the monk who's sitting there in the middle of the cathedral and kind of just sits in his lap. Batman hears the voice of Robin, and he says it's coming from that cage. And he knocks the cage down, opens up the thing covering it, and it's a Robin, a real Robin. And Robin's voice on the radio says, you found me, open the door. So this ending gets really weird. So Batman lets the Robin out. The Robin flies right into the eye hole of the monk here and yanks out this like worm creature. And immediately the monk just collapses into nothingness. And it says, the spell is broken. And Robin is now Robin again. And he's saying, I'm sorry. And that's how it ends. Very strange. God, look at this cathedral architecture that Millionaire draws. He's so fucking good. Good stuff. So this next one is called Jing Kal-El. And it's kind of a parody of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. The whole thing is in that meter. And it's, just retelling that story. We've seen that like 1,000 times before in comics. So this is written by Andy Merrill. We saw him last collection. He's the voice of Brack and does a lot of animating and writing and producing for Cartoon Network. And the art's by Roger Landridge, the great Australian funny cartoonist. God, I just love his line is just so sharp and crisp. But it's always very funny. So it's basically retelling the Superman story. The parents said put Kal-El in a rocket ship, but instead of landing in Kansas, Kal-El lands in the North Pole. These two elves find him. And they raise him up as their own. And you probably see where this is heading. Basically, Superman becomes Santa Claus. Kind of cute. Not that funny, but kind of interesting. I like this one. It's called The Wonder of It All. And the story is by Mo Williams, who comes to us from the world of animation. And art and colors by Ellen Forney. We saw her last collection, too. She's done many independent comics. I think her big one is called, like, what is it? I Was 8 in 75. Reminiscing about growing up in the 70s. So I love the way he draws Teenage Wonder Girl. And so, I'm sorry, this is Wonder Woman as a teenager. She's looking in a magazine and she sees an ad for the Lasso of Truth. So she orders it. 6 weeks later, she gets it. And she's like, from this day forth, Diana Prince wonders no more. So she calls up her friend Edda, her best friend, and she lassos her. And she finds out that Edda's been making out with her boyfriend and that her Diana's boyfriend says that Edda's a better kisser than she is. So she's like, shit, I didn't want to know this much. But she can't help it. She has to find all of her friends and teachers and lasso them. Her boyfriend admits to kissing other girls as well. This guidance counselor says, I've never cared less about a student's future than yours. Wonder Tot says, I yearn for your destruction. This teacher says, there's a direct correlation between you wearing that costume and your excellent grades in my class. And this cute rabbit just says, I hate you, flat out. So she's so bummed to find out that all of her friends really don't like her that much and have betrayed her. So she's like, I wish I had the courage to tell them what I really think. So she puts the lasso around herself, which will give her the power to tell the truth. She flies over to the mall, sees her friends, and then she says, I must be true to myself. And then she thinks about hanging out with her friends and having good times again. And she throws the lasso away and says, hey guys, wait for me. I just like how perceptive this is. This is like so true. Like how many teenagers would probably do just that? Like, yeah, your friends are backstabbing little shits, but they're the only friends you got. You don't want to be alone. This next one is Chameleon Boy and Where's Prody? And it's written by Abe Farrow and drawn by James Kochalka. And I've already told you what I think about James Kochalka. Not a fan. And this story is just pretty dumb. A chameleon boy is looking for Prody, the Legion of Superheroes' little pet sidekick. He can change shape, so he's hard to find. And he turns into a hairdryer. And one of the Legion plugs him in, and he's electrocuted. Kind of a waste of space. This next one is Batman Smells, written by comedian Patton Oswalt, drawn by Bob Fingerman. And I should mention the colors are by Dave Stewart, because these colors are beautiful. Really nice cartooning from Fingerman. This is just some fun-looking stuff. And Batman has just gotten home from a night fighting crime with Robin, and he's telling Alfred about his day for the Batman blog, the Batlog, as he calls it. And he's talking about it's Christmas Day. You could practically hear the jingle bells in the air. He fights Killer Croc in the sewers. Doesn't have time to shower, so he's just stinking. He stinks. Ra's al Ghul puts this avian invention spell on Robin, and he lays an egg. So they've been chasing the Joker, and because Robin lays the egg, he's driving. It startles him, and he crashes the Batmobile into this bridge abutment and shears off a wheel. And the Joker drives off. And so he says, okay, Alfred, take down the mnemonic flashpoints of tonight. I'll fill in the details later. And you probably saw this coming from a mile away. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg, Batmobile lost its wheel, Joker got away. Pretty stupid. It's interesting, though, he does credit the germ of the idea to David Cross and Bob Odenkirk of Mr. Show. So I guess those guys can't be that funny all the time. Next, we have The Spectre. Once again, story by Chris Duffy, art by Craig Thompson. And once again, colors by Dave Stewart. I don't like the Craig Thompson in this nearly as much as that first issue when he was really zany. This is more of a subdued Craig Thompson style, but it's pretty damn nice. Craig Thompson's just an all-around great cartoonist. I'm not thrilled with his writing. I mean, it's not bad. but I think he's an excellent cartoonist. And the Spectre, his alter ego, Jim Corrigan, is a police detective. He's I guess he died and came back and to meet vengeance on criminals. So this detective is pretty bitter and pissed off all the time. Jim Corrigan, he's a hard case. So it's kind of funny. He's hanging out at the police station. And I don't know if you guys ever read Spectre, but Spectre, he was known for these ludicrous means of judgment on criminals. Like it would almost be like the end of an EC horror story, where if a criminal was known for exporting illegal tennis balls to America, the Spectre would turn him into a tennis ball and a giant racket would hit him for all eternity. Like, that's a terrible example. That was off the top of my head. But they're always really stupid, like just desserts type ways to mete out vengeance. So this guy forgot to order a 3-hole paper puncher. So the Spectre takes a bite out of him with these 3 teeth and makes holes in him. This guy spills coffee on Jim Corrigan, so he gets boiled in a giant cup of coffee. This guy's wasting so much paper on the Xerox machine that the Spectre turns him into a tree and then buzzes him down with this giant weird chainsaw vehicle. So it just goes on like that. And at the end of the day, everyone goes home, but he's dead. So he has no life. So he's just stuck at the detective office after everyone punches out. And it kind of has this sad, melancholy ending where he sees everyone else going off to the pub to have a nice drink, and he's just stuck in his office. And he says, "I hate being dead." Oh, guys, this next one's a revelation. I never heard of this artist. So I'm going to first say the writer is Jason Youngbluff. And the artist, though, Jason Paulos. He's an Australian cartoonist, apparently. This is some of my favorite art I've seen in so long. It looks like an underground cartoonist, but also just like super slick and amazingly detailed. Every page in this is just a treat. I love this comic. And it's called It's Not Easy Being Green. Features Green Lantern. And we see Green Lantern, he's kind of hit the skids. He's not living his best life. He's reminiscing about when things were good, before anyone knew about his power ring's weakness to yellow. But then one day he was at a sporting event, and this villain called the Banana Republican started causing a ruckus. So Green Lantern fought him and totally got his ass whooped because his ring doesn't work against yellow. And this guy's dressed like a giant banana. So he becomes the laughing stock of the world. And he starts having this total phobia about yellow. If he just sees like a little baby chick, he starts freaking out. Or a banana. And he's starting to become obsessed by the color yellow. He realizes through looking through his memories that all of his worst times in life, whenever he was felt vulnerable and helpless, the color yellow was always involved. It's almost like he realizes that yellow has been tormenting him his whole life. So it starts affecting his job. Superman's criticizing him. And he's really fallen down a rabbit hole. He's not in a good way. So he flies to the Guardians planet. And he says, "Guardians, you've got to figure out a way to fix these power rings so they're not vulnerable to yellow. Or so they're effective against yellow." And they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he says, "Power rings aren't vulnerable to yellow." And they basically find out that the guy who first talked to Green Lantern all those years ago was just making a joke. He says, "That's ridiculous. I mean, you'd be killed by the first moron who came at you with a piece of American cheese if that was the case. Where'd you get such a cockamamie idea?" And the guy admits to it. And he's like, "I didn't think you'd really believe it. I'm sorry." So I guess the Power Rings have never been vulnerable to yellow. It always seemed silly to me and most kids. It always seemed ridiculous. And it turns out that it was a block from Green Lantern himself. Remember, he had all of the memories in his life, yellow, he was always tormented by it. So he goes to therapy, gets over it, and we see him on the Oprah show here with Superman. And Superman says something kind of snide, and Green Lantern fabricates a giant hunk of kryptonite to scare Superman. But man, this art, just phenomenal. I really want to find more by this guy. Really incredible stuff. I mean, I'll buy anything this guy draws. I just never heard of him before. This is The Power of Positive Batman, written by Aaron Bergeron and drawn by John Kirschbaum. I guess this writer, Aaron Bergeron, he writes for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart back in the day. Because, this is like from 2005, this collection. And Batman crashes into a psychiatrist's office, and he says, we need to talk. He tells the psychiatrist, he says, I think I'm cured. I don't need or want to be Batman anymore. In fact, I just want to get a sailboat and sail around the world. I don't need this shit anymore. So his rogues gallery comes to visit him, and they're all like, come on, why are you being such a jerk? If you're not Batman, it's no fun for us. And he's like, sorry, guys, you could always fight Robin, And the Joker says, are you making fun of us? And Bruce Wayne says, a little. So he has a cave sale in his Bat Cave, like a big yard sale. He's selling batarangs for 50 cents each, selling that giant coin, everything. And Wonder Woman tries to talk him out of it, and no dice. So he's on his sailboat. Superman comes flying out there to talk to him. And he says, I'm not coming back, Clark. He says, I know. I want to join you. And Superman admits that he's getting tired of the rat race. And he just wants to relax for a while. So they both get into their swimming trunks and are happily sailing to who knows where. I kind of like that story. And of course, I love John Kirschbaum's cartooning. This next one's an odd one. It's Aquaman. Story by Mike Doughty. Apparently this guy was in that band Soul Coughing from the 90s. I don't even know if I've ever heard that band. I have a feeling they're not good. But the real treasure of this is it's art by Danny Hellman. Dirty Danny Hellman. Man, I love his stuff. Such a great cartoonist. So underrated. I mean, he basically does a lot of porny type comics. But he's better than most cartoonists out there. His style is so perfect to me. We see Aquaman with his guitar case getting on the subway. Through his thought captions, we see that kind of a sad guy. He goes to open mic nights all the time. He hasn't really had any success, but he wants to make it, But he kind of doubts he ever will. So he goes to this cafe or bar. I like how this is like in some weird alternate reality. There's like a talking walrus, this robot with a Casio keyboard, a giant squid with drumsticks, and this goofy superhero guy. So it's just this weird, zany universe. But it's still very much like our universe, the way people feel, So he's watching all the guys perform. And when Aquaman gets up there, no one really gives a shit. Just like most open mic performances, But then all of a sudden, Robin comes in. And I guess in this universe, Robin is like king shit of fuck mountain. He's like the star. Everyone's like, Robin's here, all right. And Robin takes the stage, interrupts Aquaman's song even. And Aquaman sits down in defeat. But then this really cute girl comes up to him. Totally starts flirting with him. Totally starts talking to him. And Aquaman's kind of stunned. This doesn't happen very often. So they go to a sushi restaurant, which is kind of weird because Aquaman, all of his best friends are fish. And then she even invites Aquaman to her apartment. That's kind of a weird little thing. He says, hey, I can't believe you have this. Original Tony Millionaires, Sam Henderson's, Michael Cooperman's framed on your wall. A little shout out to some of his favorite cartoonists. But then he sees a picture of Batman and Robin. And she says, oh, yeah, I was really into them back when I was a kid. And this totally shakes Aquaman. I guess Robin triggers him. So he grabs his guitar and it's like, oh, I gotta go. I got a lot of crime to fight in the morning. Thanks for the nice chat. And he goes to his sad little apartment. Green Arrow comes home with some weird looking piece of tail. And Aquaman picks up his guitar and sadly plays throughout the night. So it's this weird kind of melancholy ending. Poor Aquaman. This one's Batman Upgrade 5.0. And I have a feeling this wasn't even funny at the time, but this is so dated because this whole comic is based on installing AOL, those CDs that they used to give out in the early 2000s that everyone got in the mail every day. And oh my God, it's just so dated. The story's by Dean Haglund, and he's a guy who writes for The Daily Show as well. And I'm sorry, Peter Murrieta too. And they co-write it. And the art's by Don Simpson. I do like this cartooning, seeing Don Simpson draw Batman, and he also colors it. Really nice coloring. Just nice molded colors. And so Batman's trying to restart the Bat computer with this Acme Soft product. It's not working. I mean, you probably remember there's always glitches, and you'd always have to reboot, and it would be not compatible, shmata, all that crap. So Batman's getting more and more pissed off. He's letting all these crimes be committed. Gotham is practically burning, is on fire, but he's too busy doing this, being on the phone with the tech guys. So finally he drives down to Acme Soft and just starts beating up the tech support team. He's so pissed off. So pretty dumb idea, but pretty nice cartooning. Oh, this is so nice. It's called Super Dumped. And it's a story by Johnny Ryan of Angry Youth Comics fame and Blucky Yuccarella. And it's beautifully drawn and painted by Dave Cooper. So in the first page here, Wonder Woman's breaking up with Superman. And she says, I found someone else. And it's this guy, this nerd. And Superman goes up to threaten him, and Wonder Woman's like, don't you dare. This is why I don't like you. You solve all your problems with violence. Kirky here is gentle and peace-loving. This is the kind of guy I want to be with. Superman's just crying. And but they've got to head off to the comic store because it's New Comic Day. Because after all, Kirky's a nerd. So we realize when they're alone together at the comic store that he's a total asshole. He's a really insensitive jerk. And Wonder Woman is totally in love with him. At the comic store, he picks up this comic. It's called Industrial Strength Cleaner. That's the name of the hero. By the way, do I even have to mention just how fucking beautiful this Dave Cooper shit is? So much better than last issues, because I think he really likes the script this time. But this is some good stuff. And then I like this. We see 2 pages from the comic. And so Industrial Strength Cleaner, she looks like a vacuum with a head on top of her. And a domino mask. So we get a little excerpt from her adventures. And Kirky's totally in love with her. Wonder Woman's kind of jealous of Industrial Strength Cleaner because she overhears all these other comic geeks talking about how, oh man, Wonder Woman's okay looking, but compared to that Industrial Strength Cleaner, she's nothing. And then all of a sudden Supergirl runs in and she's like, hi, Kirky. Why haven't you called me? And Wonder Woman and Supergirl get this huge cat fight over Kirky. I guess Kirky's been 2-timing him. Look at this design for Supergirl. That's just... Oh, this is so good. So they have this really great fight scene. They're just all around the city block here. It's total carnage. And they finally get tired of fighting. And then Kirky comes up to him and says, I got to tell you girls something. First of all, I don't like either of you, and I think you're both ugly slobs. And secondly, I'm with my true love, that Industrial Strength Cleaner. And as he leaves, he says, adios, pigs. So both of them are like, I'm never going to date another nerd again. And then, of course, right then, Clark Kent comes up, all nerded out now, because he wants to win Wonder Woman back. And he says, will you love me now, Diana? And they both run screaming, Wonder Woman and Supergirl. That is some great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, I don't know much of this guy. I think he used to be in some like anthologies back in the noughts, in the 90s. His name's M. Wartella. And apparently he's a self-described underground cartoonist. And I love this art. This is such great cartooning. This is written by Evan Dorkin. And everything else is by that Wartella guy. So we see Monkey the Monkey Wonder. This is his origin story. One night, Batman's at the circus, and he's watching the Monkey Family Flaming Chainsaw Juggling Act. They're like the stars of the circus. And some horrible accident occurs. They're all on flames. Their body parts are falling off. And the only survivor is this little baby monkey orphan. Man, look at this art. It's totally like Marty, the Spanish artist, which of course is very much like Chester Gould, but it's different. But it's also, there's so many panels in here that are so Bill Elder from Mad. You'll see it later, definitely. But this is such a great amalgam of the two styles. I definitely have to find more stuff by this guy. This is excellent drawing to me. So appealing. So Bruce Wayne gets the monkey, adopts him. And of course, it goes awry the first minute he's got him in his limo. The monkey's scratching at his face. And, monkeys, they're not good pets. He's just totally stupid, dumb as a rock. He's eating the bats in the bat cave. He almost drives the Batmobile off this road. He trashes the stately Wayne Manor. So finally, he feels like Monkey's ready. He dresses him up in this Robin outfit, and they go off to fight crime. But basically, it's not good for his crime-fighting career. Monkey fucks up so much that we see all these headlines, like, dozens die as Monkey crashes Batmobile. Latest survey reveals Batman and Monkey stink on ice. So Batman loses his shit. Look at this. I love this panel of him going cuckoo. And he realizes a monkey who impedes justice is just as bad as any criminal. I must do away with this vile little creature. So he takes him to Crime Alley, ties him up, puts all this money around him, and puts up a sign that says, I'm a rich and helpless monkey. Please don't rob and kill me. And then he even takes a bullhorn out and basically says, chow, soup's on, criminals. Yeah, just look at this Elder stuff. Like Elder, if Elder was like incapacitated in some way. If he got vertigo, for example. It's a little off, which makes it even more fun to look at. So Batman's all like, nobody will understand Monkey's cries for help. Except for, of course, Superman's super monkey pal Beppo. He shows up. The monkey tells Beppo what's going on, and Beppo kicks the shit out of Batman. Look at that Bill Elderness going on here. Then all these criminals show up, and they finish the job. I like this one. His name's Puddin' Face. That would be a great Batman villain. So Batman, this last panel, you can barely see it, but Batman's like femur is coming out of his leg. And he sees this little kid walk by with his mom. He says, hey, you kid, want to fight crime with a rich hotshot detective? And of course, the mother's like, eyes front, Roderick. Pay no mind to that strange man. I love that comic. That is so good. This one's really weird. It's Bizarro Schmizarro. Story by Harvey Pekar. Art by Dean Haspiel. This is very odd because I don't think Harvey Pekar has ever written a fictional comic. I think every single comic he's ever done has been, autobiographical, realistic. But he does this little story about Bizarro. Bizarro's feeling down, feels like he's made a mess of his life. And he's reading The Origin of Bizarro in Action Comics number 244. And he reads about how Lex Luthor turned the duplicate array on Superman and made this flawed copy, which we know is Bizarro. So he figures he'll go find Lex Luthor and see if Lex Luthor can fix him. He just doesn't want to be a Bizarro anymore. I like how they draw Bizarro like Harvey Pekar. So he finds Lex Luthor in prison. He makes a deal with him. Says, I'll get you out of here if you turn me into a normal guy. And they go to one of Lex Luthor's secret laboratories, and he puts the duplicator array on him, and it works. He turns into this dude. And then they team up, and the narrator says, keep your eyes on these pages to see what happens next with this formidable team. And that's it. Kind of dumb. Kind of useless. And I really don't even like the art. This Dean Haspel art's pretty lame. But it's very interesting to have Harvey Pekar draw a Bizarro comic. This next one's called Dear Superman. And story by Dylan Horrocks of Pickleville. We saw him last time. And art by Farrell Dalrymple, the great cartoonist hailing from my home city, Portland, Oregon. This is young Farrell Dalrymple. This is before he did Omega the Unknown. I think Pop Gun War was just coming out, his first acclaimed comic. And his art definitely gets better than this. In the past 2 decades, Farrell's gotten way better than this. This is still not bad, but not nearly as good as it'd be even a few years later. So it's it's an epistemological story. It's the Flash writing a letter to Superman. Basically, it sounds like he's going through this existential crisis, questioning his whole life. He says, I'm tired of running, always running. He just wishes he could be a normal human. Slow down, smell the hot dogs in the hot dog stand, steal a glance at a girl in a grocery store. But more than anything, I just want to stop. He says this, he says, when I'm going super fast, it's as though everything around me is frozen in time, like a world of statues, a single moment paused. And it's so beautiful, so calm and still. But as soon as I slow down and try to enter that perfect world, everything starts to move and it's gone. And we see this very dramatic, tragic pose of the Flash. So it's kind of weird, like taking this whole Bizarro collection idea. Most people are kind of razzing the superheroes, making funny comics. But this is kind of interesting. Also, the idea that, oh, no, you could just get an indie artist to do a serious story about these superheroes. It's a little overwrought. I mean, it's a little self-pitying and stuff. But it's kind of interesting, well-written thing. I mean, Dylan Horrocks always writes well. But, yeah, this story is not much of a story. It's just kind of it's like an emo song. This next one's great. It's Peter Bagge writing and art by Gilbert Hernandez. The Red Bee returns. I don't know if you know about this, guys. This is a real superhero from the Golden Age. The Red Bee. Look at his costume. That's not exaggerating. That's what his costume looks like. Worst costume ever. He has no superpowers, but apparently he has like a swarm of bees in this bag he carries with him. And he sicks them on people. If he doesn't like them. He also has a pet bee named Michael that lives in his belt. So we see the Red Bee visiting his agent or / manager, his PR guy. And, Red Bee is this blustery, past his prime doofus. And his manager's trying to be like, dude, you got to get rid of that costume. Maybe you got to go to the gym. Not many superheroes, have your body type. Got to work out a little. But of course, he's this cocky, arrogant douchebag. So he's just like, oh, I don't got to do that. I just need a boost. So his manager hires this, I don't know, what are these guys called? PR guys. He's going to totally change his image. He's going to get him interviews in magazines. Yeah, I guess that's public relations, right? They have a focus group, and these kids are reading his comics, and they're all making fun of him. And so Red Bee sicks his bees on them. And they all attack the kids. So then a few months later, his agent slash manager is reading in a magazine. And it's kind of an embarrassing interview. It's almost like they're making fun of him. And he calls up the Red Bee to see how he's doing, if you read the article. And the Red Bee apparently is doing great. The publicity from that story led to him getting a sitcom pilot deal. It sounds humiliating. But he doesn't care. He's getting paid, Has to wear a tutu. The director's saying, okay, in the next scene, the Red Bee falls into a vat of baked beans. But he's happy as a clam. This is an odd one. This is called The Break. And it's written by Eric Drysdale. And I think that's another Daily Show writer. And it's art by Tim Lane. And this is interesting because this is when barely anyone knew who Tim Lane was. All he had was that self-published Happy Hour USA comic. I think that's what it was called. Which you could find in 50-cent bins. To this day, they're still filling up, I should say, dollar bins. I forgot about inflation. And but this is a young Tim Lane. And it's not as good as he became, but it's pretty nice. Pretty interesting. But it's just about the JLA on their day off. They go to a carnival. And they're having a great time, riding the roller coaster, playing dino putt, eating some crappy food. Batman goes to a palm reader. And at the end of the day, they're watching the sunset, and Green Lantern says, we should all just hang out more. And that's the story. I mean, not much of a story, but kind of interesting. This next one is The Legion of Superheroes in Out with the In Crowd. And this is written by Evan Dorkin and drawn by Andy Watson, who we saw in the first collection. And we see the tryouts at the Legion Clubhouse. All these superheroes are trying out, and they're being really dicks to them. They're mocking them. The Lightning Lass calls them wannabe dweebs. But all of these losers, they do give them a anti-gravity flying belt as a consolation prize. So they all get out of there. They kick them out. And all of a sudden they hear this rumble. And all of the people who didn't get in the Legion with their flying belts, they lift up the clubhouse and throw it into space to get revenge. Oh, this one's great. Ultimate Crisis of the Justice League. This is written by Todd Alcott. And I guess his only claim to fame is he co-wrote that early CGI movie Ants with a Z. And it's drawn by Michael Kupperman, one of the funniest people on earth. Kind of annoying to me that Michael Kupperman didn't write it as well, since he is one of the funniest people I've ever read. But this guy, Todd Alcott, does seem to have a very Kupperman-like sense of humor. So it's not too far off from your average Kupperman comic. So apparently the JLA have done such a good job that there's no crime left in the world. The city streets are clean, safe, and orderly. All the criminals are behind bars. And so due to this, they're very bored. Superman spends his time working on his catchphrase. Look, up in the sky. It's a Zeppelin. It's a helicopter. Batman works on his theme song. And apparently John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, is left in charge to take care of menial tasks, caring for Crypto, the Superdog, taking care of the bank accounts, tidying up the Hall of Justice. And they totally take him for granted. And we realize that John Jones is kind of the schlump of the JLA. Because there's no real criminals around, a new breed of petty supervillains rises up, such as the Smoker. This is very Kupperman-esque. He's thinking to himself, he, with my secondhand smoke, I will increase to a tiny degree the population's risk of lung cancer. The nefarious jaywalkers. Ha, the jaywalkers delay the commute of another handful of workers, thus somewhat damaging, in an unmeasurable way, the gross national product. There's a guy who spoils movies called The Spoiler. So John Jones is sick of it. He's just like, we've become a joke, the Justice League. This is ridiculous. And he barges in on Superman. And he's like, Superman, you've totally mismanaged the affairs of this team. We're the laughingstock of the city. You got to do something right now. So Superman calls a meeting and says, okay, I will. I'm disbanding the JLA as of today. And then he gets pretty mean. He says, I didn't want to bring this up until now, but the fact is I don't need any of you. I never did. I could have done this whole job myself. I mean, come on, I'm an alien creature with godlike powers. I need a guy who dresses up like a bat? And Flash, guess what? I let you win that race. Pretty funny stuff. And then he disbands the JLA, kicks everyone out of the satellite, says, guys, you're all evicted. And so everyone is mad at John. Thanks a lot, Dillweed. So John Jones finally snaps. His mind is bent on murder and revenge. So he goes after all the JLA, captures Hawkman in a net, blows up Wonder Woman's plane, and he shoots Superman with a kryptonite bullet. And as he's gloating in his victory, Superman gets up. And this guy says that this was all a plot using robots and actors. I wanted to illustrate my theories of rage transference. So it was all a big gag. Everyone's still alive. And John Jones says, so you don't really hate me? And they're like, nah, you're one of us. As they're putting a kick me sign on his back. So it looks like he's still going to be the schlub of the JLA. Here's another kind of serious story where these two indie creators, the Hanukkah brothers, Tomer and Asaf, they're Israeli cartoonists. They had a pretty, really good series back in the 2000s called Bipolar. Kind of like a two-person anthology. But this just could be a normal Batman story. I mean, it's a little headier than most, I guess. But I guess there's this little girl who was abducted by the Joker. She had some kind of trauma. She's been in a coma. And so the FBI call in this guy, Roberto Shmylov, who apparently is like the world's greatest psychic. He tells Batman that one person can enter another's mind. He's figured out this way. He says, give me your hand. And Batman enters this little girl's brain. And inside of her head, it's kind of like the symbolic dreamscape. He turns into little Bruce Wayne here. And he's trying to help the girl. And then the psychotic Joker puppet comes out of nowhere. Kills Bruce Wayne's parents all over again. And Bruce Wayne turns back into Batman when he sees the little girl being threatened. That's a nice panel there. His reflection in the blood. And he grabs Joker and just shoves him in his cape. And disposes of him. And he grabs the little girl's hand and says, let's go home. So after that, everything's peachy. The little girl grows up to have a nice, happy childhood. That Shmylov guy flies back to wherever he's from. And Batman realizes that reliving fear every night is more than what I do best. It is who I am. Which I guess that's not necessarily a good thing. Man, I love the cartooning in this. It's Carol Lay, the great cartoonist, been drawn since like the late 70s. It's Crypto the Superdog. This is written by Paul Dini of Batman the Animated Series fame. Pretty much the major driving force behind that. In this comic, we see Crypto. I love the way she draws Crypto. He's flying through the galaxy, totally obsessed with his purpose. He's passing by these planets being attacked by aliens. He passes by Lobo fighting these robots. Doesn't care. And finally, he lands on this little planetoid, and it looks like a tiny UFO, but it's kind of like a Frisbee. And he grabs it and heads back to Earth. As he passes back to Earth, he sees the results of his negligence. Like Darkseid has taken over this planet because he didn't do anything. But he doesn't care because he's playing fetch with Superman. And you know how dogs are so single-minded when they do that. So Superman throws it again. Go get it. And Crypto thinks to himself, this is getting old. Oh, I love this next one. Tales of the Legion of Superheroes in Legion.com. Written by Ariel Bordeaux, the indie cartoonist, and drawn by her life partner, Rick Altergott of Doofus fame. Man, I love seeing him draw the Legion of Superheroes. This looks so good. So basically the loose plot of this is Brainiac 5 is tired of the Legion kind of loafing around and not being professional. So he calls in efficiency experts, and basically the Legion clubhouse goes corporate. He gets time clocks. He gets all this like stuff like popcorn machines to build morale, water coolers, all the stuff a typical office would have. He even buys cubicles and computers for everyone. And the Legion obviously do not like it. They're like, it used to be fun to hang out in the clubhouse. Now it's like going to a shitty job. So they're really bummed. And at the next meeting, Brainiac 5 reveals to them that they've had a security breach. And it has to be someone from the inside. So he's like, one of us could be a traitor. This is not good. So then we find out what's going on. We realize that the company that supplied Brainiac 5 with all of this office stuff, like the popcorn machine and the water cooler, they're bad guys who want the Legion's secrets. So late at night, all of these pieces of machinery, they turn into little robots and hack the system. So that night, just by chance, Saturn Girl forgets something back in the clubhouse, and when she goes back in, her and Cosmic Lad find the robots doing their skullduggery, and they knock them to pieces. And everything goes back to normal, because they can't have that corporate stuff anymore. And Brainiac 5's like, oh, shit. But everyone else is happy. This is nice. It's former District Attorney Harvey Dent in Dinner for Two. This is written by Evan Dorkin and drawn by Ivan Brunetti of Schizo fame. This is definitely his later style. You know, after Schizo 4, he started drawing all this cutesy way, which I really like. It's great cartoony. We see Two-Face saying, man, I'm hungry. I should eat. Flips a coin. I guess it came up wrong because he's not allowed to eat. He's like, but I'm hungry. And he flips it again. It comes up the wrong way. So he's like, I'm so hungry. And then the headline at the newspaper here says, Two-Face dead of malnutrition. Pretty dumb, but also kind of funny. This next one is Supergirl by Maggie Esther, story, and Dylan Horrocks art. Man, I really love the layouts of this comic. I mean, I like his cartooning plenty, but this comic, I just love how every page shares the same layout. So it's almost like every page has a narrative, and then you almost get like a splash page, like a cool image in the middle of every page. So we see Linda Davers, the alter ego of Supergirl. She's missing Comet, the super horse, because he's on vacation at a horse ranch. And Superman's off in space somewhere. There's these guys ring her doorbell, and they hand her an eviction notice. And outside in the limo, we meet this guy here. His name's Anatole Malador, real estate mogul. But really, he's this ancient wizard, a sorcerer, who's traveled through the centuries to buy up real estate and tear down houses. He just doesn't like people being happy. He also admits that his real mission here is one closer to my heart. And we'll find out in a second. See what I told you? This is just like a symbolic, almost like splash page for this Anatole Malador. So now we're with Comet on the horse ranch, and all of a sudden Circe shows up with her horse, Jack Valentine. I guess she traveled from the past because she wants to put her horse, Jack Valentine, in the Kentucky Derby because he's one of the fastest horses who's ever lived. Unfortunately, Malador has put a curse on the mother of Jack Valentine. He killed the mother and put a curse on all of her progeny. And he promises he's going to turn Jack into stone. But Comet says, I'll protect you. We get a little splash, half page. So Linda Davers turns into Supergirl and starts looking for Comet. Back at the Kentucky Derby, the race hasn't quite started, but we realize that Circe screwed up her time travel spell. So she's going to disappear in like a few minutes. But her horse, Jack, can stay. Since horses have different metabolism, the time spell works a little differently on them. She promises to turn Comet into a human being in exchange for Comet helping out Jack. And she's going to do it right then before she leaves, but Comet says, no, I have to have my superpowers to protect Jack. If you've ever read Supergirl comics, every now and then Comet turns into this human, and he's in love with Supergirl. It's kind of weird. It's like interspecies romance. But of course he can't be with her as a horse, so he longs to be a human, so he can be with Supergirl. But he's such a good heroic horse, he says, no, I have to protect Jack, so you can't turn me into a human. So Malador orders all the houses destroyed in that town. And he sneaks into the stables of the Kentucky Derby, and he's about to pour this magic dust on Jack. And Comet intervenes, and then Supergirl shows up. So the magic dust falls on Malador, and he's turned to stone. And then soon after that, Jack wins the Kentucky Derby. And since Malador is now stone, he has no legal rights to any of his ill-gotten profits. So she brings him to the mayor, gets him to redistribute all the illicit money they made and give it to the poor people that whose houses were demolished. This cartoon is so appealing to me. It's like some great, I don't know, Tintin book you've never read or something. It's just, like I can imagine if I read this comic as a kid, this would have been my favorite comic ever. Just so appealing in that kid-like style. And so it's a happy ending. And Comet gets to go home with Linda. And he says, well, at least if I have to be a horse, at least I'm Linda Danvers' horse. I can't think of any horse I'd rather be. I like this, how she's drawing this Picasso-like version of Comet. This next story is co-written by Tom Hart and Leela Corman. Art and colors by Leela Corman. I've never seen this Leela Corman cartoonist before. Very odd style. I don't find it very appealing. And basically the story is pretty dumb. It's Batgirl, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman are hanging out at a coffee shop, just making small talk, say like, oh, what would you do if you could have a superpower? And they're just chatting. And they ask the waitress the same question, and she says, the most powerful person in the world wouldn't care what anyone thinks of her. That's the superpower I'd have, fearlessness. Fearlessness. That's the ultimate superpower. And then we see them dancing. I don't know. It's like this little homily. And, this art is just not easy on the eyes. This art is very easy on the eyes, though. A Day in the Life of the Flash, written by Eddie Campbell and drawn by Paul Grist. Man, look at the layouts of this Paul Grist artwork. He is so good at doing these just very appealing layouts. And the cartooning is great, too. I love his cartoons. Oh, the coloring's by Phil Elliott, another great cartoonist. We just saw him a few videos ago in that Splat video I put up. So the story's not much. The Flash goes to the mirror dimension, fights the Mirror Master. He defeats him. Then he gets a call from Soliver of Gorilla City. He says, Flash, get over here. Gorilla Grodd's escaped again. Can you help us? So he does. Takes care of that. I just love the way he draws Flash. All the characters. And then he goes home after an exhausting day and crashes in bed, and his wife goes off to work. This next one's called The Gotham City Operatic Society Presents The Batman Operetta. And this is written by Paul Grist and drawn by the wonderful Hunt Emerson. And this one's also colored by Phil Elliott. So this is just what it says it is. And it's kind of disappointing after last issue's Hunt Emerson story, because that was so beautiful with the great colors. And this is all in sepia. And it's just not as appealing. But of course, it's Hunt Emerson's world-class cartooning. So it looks great to me. I don't know if this is like an honest mistake or some kind of inside joke, but he draws Commissioner Gordon looking just like Commissioner Dolan from The Spirit. So basically, it's like a Gilbert and Sullivan musical. All these word balloons are just, rhyming. I'm the Dark Knight detective. I'm doing what I can. I dress up like a creature of the night. They call me the Batman. It's kind of dumb. But it's nice to look at this great Hunt Emerson cartooning. Oh, I love this page. I could read like a whole graphic novel of this stuff. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's called The Daily Hetrea, which is Earth backwards. Hey, adults, comics. Hey, kids, ads. So this is written by Evan Dorkin, drawn by Arsa Koryak. And it's just like a newspaper from Bizarro World. Bizarro History 101. We see Francisco Bizarro encountering the New World. Adios, we am come in peace. Me am not here to overthrow Incan rule, slaughter population, and call place Peru. This little gag panel says, for some reason, everyone loved playing cards with the losers, the DC War Team. Oh, this is so great. It's the Marvel Family Circus. And it's like a parody of those Family Circus comics with Jeffy. And it's Billy Batson. And we follow him through the events of the day, fighting all these villains. A little Mort Walker-looking strip of the Black Racer. A little gag. And some ads at the bottom for the kids. This next one's kind of weird. It's a script by Randon David Borden of Studio Kaiju. And the artist is Ben Dunn. Basically the guy who brought Amerimanga to prominence back in the 80s with his Ninja High School. And this is like this could be actually a pretty fun comic. It's basically, it's called Lantern Sentai. And it's reimagining the Green Lantern Corps as if they were like the Power Rangers. Kaiju fighting team of heroes who can all unite into a giant robot to fight the kaiju. And basically they fight Star the Conqueror, which is perfect. I like how it's on this different paper, or at least it looks like different paper stock, so it feels more like a manga, like a Shonen Jump or something. These guys are pretty good, though. This is pretty nice, straight action art. So this is just an excerpt, just to give you a little taste. I'm surprised DC hasn't published a whole comic of this. I bet it would sell. Oh, this is nice. Monsieur Batman. This is art and story by Dupay and Berberian. They're two French cartoonists. They've been a team for decades now. And as you can see, they've got this very stylized cartooning style. It's almost like something that would be in the New Yorker or something. So we're in France, and we are introduced to Maurice, who's a cousin of Bruce Wayne. And he's hanging out with his friend Salvador Dali. And Maurice is telling Dali about his cousin and his exploits and how he fights crime. And Salvador Dali says, hey, Paris needs its own vigilante. You should do that. I'll even design a costume for you. So one night at this fancy club, Maurice shows up dressed as Monsieur Batman. Very stylish. And instead of fighting crime, he kind of goes around dispensing etiquette and talking to people about manners, criticizing street musicians for their musical abilities, scolding dog owners who don't pick up their poop. And apparently he makes Paris a better place. That's a good one. So this next one is The Demon. And I can't remember who wrote this, but it's drawn by... Oh, I'm sorry, it says right there, Kurt Wolfgang. He's a cartoonist who, he was in a lot of those Mome anthologies that Fantagraphics put out, Turn of the Millennium. And it's drawn by Brian Ralph of Cave-In fame. And I like this opening page. The demon is beating up these goth kids because he thinks they're demons. So they leave the goth club. I like this little cameo from Clarion the Witch Boy. Looks like he's smoking a clove cigarette or something. And Etrigan turns into his Jason Blood form. I think that's his name, Jason Blood. And he's complaining to his friend how, I don't want to be the supernatural good guy. I want to just be a normal superhero, fights any kind of crime. I'm tired of fighting witches and warlocks and zombies. There's no money in that. I'm the occult expert. Chicks don't dig that. So the other guy says, hey, I'll be your manager. And we'll make this whole new image for you. And they do. He just becomes this normal kind of fake superhero. And all of these endorsement deals come in. All these women want to sleep with him. Everyone's looking up to him and admiring him. But he's kind of down. He's like, I actually still want to help people. I just don't want to be the demon anymore. Even though I don't have powers. Maybe I could get some high-tech gadgets. And his manager says, absolutely not. There's too much money riding on your ass. If you get injured, we're fucked. So they argue, and the manager says, hey, it doesn't matter what you think. I own the trademark on the demon. I could replace you at any minute. So the demon goes storming off in a huff. This one's fun. It's Commandy, the laziest boy on earth. And we see Commandy in New York City. He goes to his apartment. I guess he spends his days foraging through the detritus of New York City, finding all this old pop culture. His old buddies, Dr. Canis and Prince Tufton, show up. And they're like, hey, Commandy, the guerrillas have broken their truce and are starting to march on Washington. We need your help. And he's like, no. And he's like, I said no. It's like, I'm tired of doing this shit. I just want to relax and have my own life. Do you guys want to come in for coffee, though? So they come in, and I like this, how they're eating boxes of Twinkies, because you know that old wives' tale about how Twinkies don't ever decay. There's so much stuff like on his floors and on his walls. Flock of Seagulls album, a Boy and His Dog poster, kind of apropos. There's a picture of his grandfather Omek there. A Devo album, Duran Duran. So he basically, explains to the guys, he's like, guys, this is how I feel. I just want to, experience pre-war, disaster culture and have a nice time. So they agree. They're just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess you've earned the right, Commandy. Sorry to bug you. And they fly off. And he's like, hey, guys, just because I don't want to fight in these wars anymore doesn't mean I don't want to be your friend. Come back anytime. We'll hang out. And with his remote, he turns on the torch of the Statue of Liberty and enjoys the evening while he's reading Dr. Doolittle. This next story is called Justice League of America in Bring Your Kids to Work Day. And this is written by Dave Roman and art by Raina Telgemeier. And I guess this is way before she became super famous, Raina Telgemeier. This is when she had just started doing those Babysitter Club graphic novels. So this is the JLA of all their children bringing their kids to work day. And these kids are like typical kids who don't really care about what their parents say. They think their parents are kind of lame. And then all of a sudden the alarms go off and the evil supervillains are attacking. But they also are having a bring your kid to work day. So their kids are there. Gorilla Graham, Prudestro, Luther Van Luther. And of course they're just playing their video games. And the parents, the villains and the heroes start bonding over how annoying kids are today. And the same thing happens with the kids where they're like, oh my God, my parents are so annoying. That's how it ends. Maybe if I was 8 years old, that would be cute. I don't know. We get another beautifully drawn story by Kyle Baker, Personal Shopper. This is written by Kyle Baker and Elizabeth Glass. And once again, we get this beautiful cell animation style art from Kyle Baker. This story isn't nearly as funny as that one from the first collection. This is basically about Alfred having to go to a mechanic to specify a certain type of car to be built, obviously a Batmobile, but he has to keep it a secret from the guy. So the humor lies in their banter where Alfred's trying to ask for these crazy things that could only be on a Batmobile, but then also deny that he's buying a Batmobile. But man, this is such good cartooning. And those colors. Not much of a story, but really nice art. Then the last story here, we have Good Girls Go to Heaven, Bad Girls Go Everywhere. Written by Paul DiFilippo, who I guess is a very prolific author, prominent author, and art by Derek Kirk Kim. And I guess I haven't heard that name before, so I don't know what he's done. But he's kind of appealing style, very cutesy. Looks like he could make a lot of money drawing shit for Scholastic books, you know. I'm sure he'd get rich doing that. This is basically just about Dead Man and his kind of sad romantic relationships he's had over the years. Because he hangs out in limbo all the time. Most people just truck on through limbo to either paradise or, you know, hell. But some people are stuck in limbo for a while due to something that happened on Earth. So every now and then a woman stays in limbo long enough for him to date, but then they always move on. So his love is always fleeting. And he's kind of whining about it. And he finally has one woman who's staying for a while. And the gag at the end is it turns out her ex-husband is Darkseid. And her sons are Calabac and Orion. So whenever they visit, of course, all hell breaks loose. And Dead Man is not happy with that. We got a few pages of biographies, which I always love when they do that. Let you know who the artists, what they've done. And that's it for Bizarrro World. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at it. These are really fun. I wish there was one of these every few years. Even the ones, you know, there's some turds in here. But that's to be expected in an anthology. But some really great stuff. And even when the stories aren't that great, it's really fun seeing these artists, you know, stretch their styles or draw in a different milieu than they're used to. So I totally recommend getting these. They're pretty damn fun. And hope you enjoyed watching the video today. And also, I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.